Hi, thank you very much for tuning back in. My name is Fonny. In my channel, I talk about my houseplant and my Hoyas. Today, it is a video that I would like to demonstrate and showcase the differences of small, tiny, round, small leaf Hoyas. And I would like to share with you these particular characteristic Hoyas, how different they are in between each other. In particular, there are so many new species discovered in Papua, particularly the SP Papua that we got from Indonesia. I have obtained around 6 to 7 species that is sold to me as SP Papua last year. And in particular, there are 2 species that one of them has been published in 2022 year end, and that I'm mentioning is Hoya IM02 and Hoya IM08. Many of the people has commented IM02 and IM08 are very similar between Hoya Serpens, and for this video, I would like to show you side by side in real life, showing you in my collection how different they are. In particularly comparing with Hoya Serpens and Hoya Tengchongensis. I also have the newly published one, Hoya Peltata, and have it side by side and see how different or how similar they actually look like. Of that being said, all of these are actually found in Papua, and I don't believe, and it is pretty obvious that these are separate species because the flowers are quite different. But with this opportunity, I would love to show you, in my opinion, how they look like. If you are interested in this type of content and you like the concept of me showing you side by side in real life how different Hoyas look like, please like this video and share this video with your friends. If you don't want to miss out next time when I post a similar comparison video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button before you move on. Now, I'm going to show you all of the close-up 10 species that I have selected that a lot of you have been asking about. What's the difference between these? As you can see from this very quick glance, they look very similar, but I will show you very closely how exactly they look in difference. And yes, let's start with the first one here. The first one over here is Hoya Peltata. This one is newly published in 2022, and it has very, very cute, rounded, yet slightly pointy leaf shape. This one, with regard to the care tips, I would say it is not that difficult. However, it takes quite a bit of time to grow. Although I have to say, the time when I received from LB Garden, it's around this size, and throughout this half a year it has grown this new vine and also this part. So I would say it has maybe doubled the size over half a year. However, it is also during the winter month, so it is not the growing season, so I would say it actually grows pretty decently. And of course, I put it in my Ziploc bag at the time when I am acclimating it. So this one is not extremely difficult, but slightly slow growing in my opinion. And you can also see the leaf has that kind of shine in it. It is not like a very uneven surface. It is pretty smooth, and you can see that it has a little bit of shape of the leaf shape over here. Not very obvious, but I would say it is generally very smooth on the surface. Yeah, if you want to know how specific my grow tips are, just leave me a comment down below and then we can discuss further. It is relatively new in my experience as well. I have this one for half a year. Now let's move on to another one which is quite similar to Peltata in my opinion. This one over here is also newly published in 2022, early 2022. This one here is Hoya Curtisii subspecies Collariata. This Collariata, I found it very difficult. The first one that I got from LB Garden actually died off after maybe 3 months I got it. So this one I'm extremely careful about it. At the time when I received it, it is around this size. It's very, very tiny at the time when I received it. It's just like this much. It is also very, very slow growing, also similar to Peltata. And the reason why I say it is very similar to Peltata is because of the size of the leaf. You can see that the leaf is very rounded, but the only difference is the tip. The tip is super pointy, as you can see over there and over there and over there. Compared with Peltata, it doesn't have that obvious pointiness, if you can see over there, but the shape is very similar. For Collariata, it also has much more succulent leaf texture. If you can see on the side, it is much more thicker than the Peltata that I have it on the right hand side. And also the surface, it's a bit uneven. It is not the smooth surface that Peltata has. But all in all, I keep this one in a very high humidity environment. That's why you can see that there are actually some ferns. What's that called? I'm not sure. It just grow out of nowhere. So yeah, this one, you can also see the splashiness of the Collariata. Speaking of this one, I would like to show you a very similar one that I also own, and probably you would want to know how different it is. So this one, Move On, is also Curtisii. I got this one from Camilla. This one is the small leaf Curtisii. And as you can see, it is different from the Curtisii regular because the leaf shape is obviously much smaller, and also it is not as sun-stressed. I have spoken with Camilla. She mentioned that this one don't really sun-stress in purple, but in fact it has a lot of splash. And you can also see the coloration is quite splashy. You can see that kind of silvery color reflect a tiny bit. And it is very, very cute. And with regard to the care tips, compared to Peltata and Collariata, this one is much easier. I didn't put it in a Ziploc bag for a very long time, and it has pushed out so many new vines, as you can see over here. It was a cutting probably this big from Camilla last summer, and in half a year it has probably tripled the size, and I can have the Curtisii subspecies Collariata compared side by side, and you can see what I meant by it is very similar in terms of the shape, the splashiness, and also the texture of the surface of the leaf. Of course, this small leaf Curtisii is a little bit more narrower compared to the new subspecies Collariata. But if you have 3 of them together, then you will see it assembles each other. For the middle one, subspecies Collariata, this one has the similarity between Peltata when it comes to the rounded leaf shape. But if you look into the left-hand side, the small leaf Curtisii, it has very similar texture than the Collariata, because obviously this one is also Curtisii. So they probably will be much more similar when it comes to the texture, the thickness, and also the splashiness, as you can see over here. Well, speaking of these, I want to show you a relatively similar one as well. This one over here, it is nothing, as I know, related to Curtisii or Peltata, but the leaf shape is quite similar to Curtisii, small leaf shape. This one here is Hoya subspecies Sulawesi. It is not published yet because this one is a new species that LB Garden has recommended me, and I love tiny leaf shape. Especially I saw the picture of the flower of this one is fascinating. It's very special. It is kind of it looks like a mixture between the flower of Hoyas and Dishchidia. I can show you on the side for the picture, and that's tell me if you think the same way as I do, because it's not exactly the same as Hoya flower, but it assembles a little bit of the flower of Dishchidia. So this one, as you can see, it is plain green color, and it is also relatively thinner, not as thick as the Curtisii, but it is very similar to the leaf shape of the Curtisii, small leaf. If I put it down side by side, and you can see that the leaf size is similar, and also it's slightly elongated with a pointy leaf shape. For this one, it is not very fast growing, I would say. I got this one in spring last year, and it is very slow growing. I think this bit grows in 9-month time, or maybe 8-month time. So it is definitely not a fast grower. I actually traded one of the cutting of this one with Camilla. I hope hers grows faster. But in general, this one is very, very special. I mean, it's very pretty. Look at this. It's relatively it's not as smooth as Peltata. It has that kind of resistant, not as much of a sandpaper, but maybe 50% of a sandpaper. But all in all, it is pretty healthy, and I think it is branching out over here. You can see there's a new growth point. It kind of went dormant in the entire autumn and winter time, so hopefully this one will grow faster when now spring is just around the corner. Very, very cute. Then we move on to this one over here. This one is not a Hoya. This one is a Dishchidia. This is Hirsuta. I really, really like this one because of the tiny leaf shape, and also it has a lot of dimension. You can see that there are some pores on the leaf, and also it has that kind of veining, not just veining on the pattern, but also the texture. You can feel the texture follows the veining, and you can also see on the bottom part it has the pores as well. And this one has very small leaf shape that is just amazing. I would say this one grows relatively quick. I got it as a cutting, maybe this size, around 5 months ago. Now it has probably quadruple its size. And the interesting thing about this Hoya is that it has some kind of fuzzy texture, but it will slowly reduce the fuzziness once it becomes more mature. I really, really appreciate having this one, and I really like it. You can see that it has a bit of sun stressing because it is right underneath my Spider Farmer grow light, and you can see these ones are newer leaf. It is not hard enough yet, but it is more lime color, as you can see. This one actually is very similar to another one that is relatively new Hoya that I got, but I actually think this one may not be a Hoya. I am not sure. Leave a comment down below if you have any idea of what genre this one is, but I got this one as a Hoya, or slightly relevant to Hoya, but I can show you the flower. The flower is very peculiar of this one. And as you can see, this one is super, super hairy. You see that on the side? And also, it is also quite dark in color. This one is the original leaf. This is a very small cutting or plant when I got it from LB Garden. Maybe this bit, just this much, around 6 months ago. And it has probably 5 times more growth. I mean, it has grown 5 times because this entirely new vine just pushed out in the past 6 months. And if we look at the close-up of the leaf shape, it has the marking of the veining, and also it has a bit of pore, just like a Hirsuta. This one over here. That's the reason why I want to show you this one side by side. You can see that the leaf shape is relatively similar. You can see the veining, which also create the shape of the leaf, and also the texture. For Hirsuta, this one has a bit of hair when it is new, and it doesn't have as much when it becomes the mature leaf, as you can see on the side as comparison. But the SP Sulawesi, it is not published yet, that's why it doesn't have a name. You can see that the older leaf also have very prominent hairing situation. And of course, for the newer leaf, it is even more fuzzy. You can see over here. And it is also having a limer color when it comes to the new leaf, like this. So I would say both of them reminds itself between the two, and I really like the small pointy leaves, and this is actually a surprise. I have traded a cutting with Hoya Peltata, I think around 4 months ago, and I'm really happy that this one is growing really fast. Hopefully it's the same as Emily's cutting that got from me. But this one I would say is a very easy grower in my condition. I have it first in a Ziploc bag in the first maybe 1 month, and then I put it in my Milspo cabinet. It just keep growing very intensively. So yeah, these two reminds me of each other. Now, this one I would actually want to show first. This is the very popular Hoya Serpens. Hoya Serpens is very easygoing for me. And you can also check out the Hoya seed pot growth journey that I have. I will link it on the side. And it also flowered in my condition last year. You can also check out that video. But let's focus on the similar leaf shape. And you can see that for Serpen, it has extremely small tiny leaf. And you can also see that kind of marking. It has that vein that shaped the texture as well. It also have that kind of pores you can see on the side, and it has some splashes depending on the light condition, I guess. You can see there is a bit of splashes on this one. It grows very fast in my condition. I think I got this one 2 years ago, and the size is just this. And then all of these has grown in the past 2 years. And not to mention I have chopped many cuttings for trades, or I have sold it as cutting. And speaking of Hoya Serpens, I'll give you 1 second. What do you think I'm going to compare this with? Not with Mathilde, because that's too obvious of an answer. I'm going to compare with Tengchongensis. Tengchongensis, I got this one as a very small cutting, or as a very small plant. As you can tell, it's in a very small pot. But this one, it is very similar when it comes to the leaf shape, but it is slightly different when it comes to the veining. And I also have heard the comment from Miro saying that Tengchongensis is much more interesting than Serpens. I agree, because Tengchongensis has even more intense veining on the leaf, and it doesn't have any splash on this one. However, if you look at the new growth, it is so amazing. How come this tiny leaf shape that is even smaller than my nail could have such a dimension of veining? You can see that under the reflection of light. The more older it gets, or more mature it gets, the veining kind of dim a little bit, because the newer leaf has much more veining. You can see this one here. You can see the vein is very prominent. This one as well. But as it grows older, it becomes slightly thicker, and the vein will not be as obvious. But the thickness is also quite similar to Serpens. The difference that I've noted is mainly the vein of the leaf. And look at this tiny cute baby leaves. See that one there? It still have that crazy veining. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'll have these two side by side for your reference. Now you can see it is very different when it comes to the depth and complexity of the veining. Although the shape and also the thickness of the leaves are very similar, but I would say Serpens is more, you can see more pores on the surface of the leaf, but for Tengchongensis, instead of pores, it is quite smooth on the surface. However, it has a strong definition on veining. both of them are incredible. I find Tengchongensis to be slightly slower in the growth speed. I wouldn't say it is a super slow grower because it grows this much in the past 2 months, and it is still winter time. Even though it is in my Millsbow cabinet, it is not extremely warm. I would say maybe 25. So yeah, hopefully in summer and springtime it will grow even faster. I think there is a new leaf over there. Try not to break it. It is so... There we go. This one here. It is very delicate. Oh my goodness. I don't want to break it. There you go. Very beautiful Tengchongensis. I love this one. Last but not the least, I specifically kept these two at the very end because I think these two are the two that confuse everyone the most. I'm going to start with the one that has not been published yet. This one here is Hoya SP Papua IM08. As you can see over here, the leaf is very, very similar to IM02. However, you can see that if I use this one as an example, the veining is very prominent. However, the leaf is extremely, extremely thin. You see that on the side, it's paper thin. And because of that nature, the leaf with the vein looks extremely fragile. And I have put it in a trellis like this. I'll just pen it like this. And you can see that the leaf itself is very, very tiny, and it also is very dark. It grows incredibly fast. In my experience, this one, I think the size has probably, let me just focus. Okay, focus. For this one, I think it actually have maybe sized it up 5 times, and you can see that the leaf, it's slightly limer in the color. It is because these ones are new growth. Most of the time it grow like this. It is very, very hairy and thin and fragile. You just feel like you're going to break it right in a heartbeat. It is not that difficult, although it looks very finicky because of the thin and also tiny leaf. It is very fast growing, and also it is very easygoing in my experience. As long as you keep the soil substrate always moist, it will be very friendly to you. And I also have a peduncle over here, if you can see, but I spray a mealybug solution, and I have explained that one. Because I sprayed that one, some leaf actually died off because of the sunburnt condition that it ended up, but hopefully this one will rebut itself, and otherwise it will grow some new peduncle. Right, then side by side over here, this one is the published one, IM02 Pulleana. Pulleana is very, very small as well. As you can see, the leaf size is the same as the IM08. However, it doesn't have as much depth of the vein. It probably have vein on the pattern, but it doesn't really have the shape of the vein as much as the IM08. And it is also slightly more rounder. It's not that pointy. You can see that it's rounded like this. And the coloration is similar, leaf size is similar, the thickness is similar. However, the flowers are quite significantly different in my opinion. And it just pushed out this peduncle. It is quite new, so hopefully this one will manage to flower. If not, it's also fine because I believe this is very fast growing as well. Comparatively, you can see the difference, what I mentioned about the leaf rounding and also pointiness. On the left hand side you see Pulleana it is round on the very tip. However, for IM08, it is much more pointy. And also, IM08 has a much more intense veining. If you look into this side by side, it's much smoother for IM02 Pulleana. And with regard to the growth speed, I would say Pulleana grows slightly slower than IM08. As you can see, the significant difference actually. It's not slightly, but it's quite significant. This one is 2 size larger than this one over here. And also at the time when I received this one is slightly larger than Pulleana. It has grown maybe 3 times compared to the time when I have received it. So Pulleana has grown 3 times the size, and you can see that the new leaf is also quite similar if you look into these 2 side by side. I'm not sure if you can catch that, but the new leaf is also started off lime color, and then it will have some more sun stress. The sun stressing is also quite similar if you look into these 2 coloration. The sun stressing is similar, and the transition from light green to lime green and also to more dark green when it is more mature. But yes, there you go. This is the difference compared, except for the flowers. The leaf shape is slightly different. The leaf veining, very different. Similar size, similar thickness of the leaf, but both of them are an incredibly good grower in my experience. Thank you very much for staying until now. I wish you enjoy the close-up side-by-side comparison. In my opinion, all of them look different. I understand for IM08 and IM02, they have very slight differences, particularly for the pointiness of the tip of the leaf. However, the texture, the color, and also the thinness of the stem, and even the growing pattern is very similar in my opinion. So if you have any questions with regard to the differences or any questions with regard to the care tips, don't forget to leave a comment down below so then we can discuss further. If you have any suggestion for me to keep any of these Hoya or any information that you know about this Hoya, maybe some of these Hoya that I mentioned as SP Papua are already published. So please leave a comment down below as well if I missed out anything. If you like this type of content and you want me to continuously producing similar content, don't forget to like this video and share this video with your friends. If you have not subscribed to my channel yet and you would like to see more of my houseplant and more of the explanation that I have for Hoyas, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you won't miss out next time. Until next time, I wish everyone is having a great day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!